All right, welcome to Action Network Live. It's 11 o'clock. There's 2 hours until week one of the NFL begins. It is the best window in all of sports. People can say that it's the Kentucky Derby is the most exciting. People can say the Super Bowl is the most exciting. But for those of us who gamble, those of us who play fantasy, we know that the best, most exciting time in all of sports is right now. And the beauty is we finally get to talk about it out loud. There's not going to be any hot air analysis on this show. There's not going to be any heartfelt storytelling. It's just going to be stuff that you need for the most exciting window in all of sports. We have Matthew Friedman. We have Sean Corner. We have Chris Raybon. We have Katie Rich Creek. And with all the news you can use, Mr. Darren Ravel. Darren, you're tracking the markets in the app. You're talking to all the bookmakers. Tell us what the markets are telling you right now.
Hi, Chad. Yeah, it's really going crazy here. I would say the most intriguing thing off the bat is the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously Kyler Murray, some new toys. The Arizona Cardinals are liked here by both the sharps and the public. So obviously right now it's 6.5, 7 against the 49ers. 83% on both FanDuel and William Hill of the money is on the Cardinals. So that's my first point. My second point is obviously one of the two duels of the quarterbacks today. You obviously have Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers, but then you have Drew Brees and Tom Brady. The intrigue is on the total, where it currently sits in between 47.5 and 48. And most of the public is obviously going heavy on the over, though that number has not moved, which is surprising to me because I was going to make that bet based on it moving. So heavy on the over for that game, the Saints and the Buccaneers. And then the biggest bet we've gotten so far.
Hold on. You're supposed to let me ask you what the biggest bet is.
Okay.
Don't forget.
Okay. You asked what the biggest bet is.
Darren, what are the biggest bets coming in? And who's making some of those bets?
Yeah, so it's kind of slow. It's slower than usual. We saw this with college football as well. Usually there are some big bets by now, but even yesterday, things didn't come in till the last minute, really. The biggest bet we've seen is at BetMGM, 110 to win 100 on the Browns. Plus, what are they? I think they're +7. So there's not really a whole lot. The Superbook has a couple $20,000 bets in, but I bet by the end of the show we will have more for you on some big bets.
All right, Darren, you will be in a constant camera in the corner of everybody's screen. You have interruption privileges. If there is breaking news, if something is moving in the Action Network app that everyone can download for free, you are going to share that information. We're going to go to Katie Rich Creek, our NFL boss. She is tracking everything that is happening on our site. What you are looking at, you do not lie. This is what you are most interested in. The internet only tells the truth. Katie, what do people care about right now?
Well, if the Cardinals weren't an exciting enough bait for you to hook for you to get in, the bettors are interested in the AFC South. Naturally, majority of bettors are on the under in Jags Colts, but the sharps are on the under, and people have been eating that up. They're interested in what the pro bettors are doing, so we'll be monitoring that throughout this morning.
All right, Katie, you also have break-in privileges. If stories start popping, if the audience starts getting into one thing or another, keep us posted. Now we are going to go to Chris Raybon and Sean Corner, if Sean Corner is able to join, because he's also rapidly updating things as inactives come closer to being announced. Raybon, you're going to go first, buddy. What are you thinking about for sides and totals? Where are you thinking about for your bets?
Well, one of my favorite bets for this week is the Carolina Panthers +3 against the Vegas Raiders. You look at this Panthers team, and I don't really see too much of a difference between them and the Raiders. You have Teddy Bridgewater versus Derek Carr. I would say that's advantage Bridgewater. A lot of people are excited about Josh Jacobs running all over this Panther defense. Well, the Panthers still have the best running back in this game and in the league in Christian McCaffrey. And you look at the two defenses, and people are worried about the Panthers defense, a lot of rookies and guys that, were just a bad defense last year. Well, the Raiders were even worse. They were number 31 in DVOA a year ago. So the Panthers potentially have an advantage in every facet of this football game. They are at home as well. And Teddy Bridgewater, 28-7 all time in his career against the spread.
I got to tell you that, we've talked about two games so far, sort of off the top. We talked about Arizona +7, which I happen to love, in San Francisco. Hopefully that game is played. Like, it would be so 2020 if the first game of the year that's canceled is not because of COVID, but because the air quality is so bad. But I love Arizona at +7, +6.5 against the Niners on the road in San Francisco. And I also love Carolina. Like, it makes no sense to me that a Las Vegas Raiders team that wasn't very good last year, that hasn't necessarily markedly improved, is a road favorite of basically a field goal against a team with the best running back in the NFL and a quarterback who consistently covers. And by the way, knows this offensive coordinator. Joe Brady was his offensive coordinator with the Saints. Raybon, you were shaking your head aggressively. How did you power rate this game? Like, when were you looking at this? Like, obviously on the field, the matchups work, but what else made you sort of lean towards Carolina?
So again, it's just a matter of, you're kind of comparing all the different facets of the game, especially the passing games and, the passing defenses. And, I have this game is about split by about a point. I think it's closer to a toss up. And you look at Teddy Bridgewater going against this Raider defense, and he's going to have some advantages with Joe Brady, you mentioned, and a guy that I love for DFS tournaments, we'll get to in a second. But, they have some advantages, in the receiving core as well.
All right, so let's get to it. Let's talk about DFS. Let's talk about cash games. Let's talk about GPP, guaranteed prize pool. What do you got?
So for cash games, I think the lock of the week is Lamar Jackson. You look at Jackson in 327 total yards per game and 3 total touchdowns per game in his 2 matchups with Cleveland last season. Cleveland turning over some pieces, struggling with some injuries on defense. I think, this is a great matchup for Lamar and the Ravens. In terms of cash games, I think you lock Lamar in because you look at Lamar and Christian McCaffrey on DraftKings are the 2 highest projected guys in our Fantasy Labs models. One of them costs $10K, that's McCaffrey, and the other costs $8,100, that's Jackson. So he's my pay up guy of choice this week.
All right. And then let's go to corner for a second. Are you able to join us, Sean Corner?
Absolutely.
All right. So listen, on Thursday night, when we did our debut episode of this show, we talked about Darren Fell's under being the bet everybody in the Twitter geekerati loved. And that turned out to cash. And then you also gave us a little bit of a taste of David Johnson, first touchdown to score the first touchdown at 13-1. So now you got a lot of pressure to live up to. Tell me what's on your mind right now. Your fantasy start sit story is blowing up the internet. Do you want to start with fantasy? Where do you want to go?
Let's go with my favorite props.
All right, let's do it.
So 3 of the props that I've locked in already. The first one is Derek Carr under 271 passing yards. This sort of plays into why I also like the under 48.5 on the total in this game. But, Raybon already mentioned it, but both running backs in this game are pretty much each team's offense going into this spot. So I think Derek Carr, he'll be checking down quite a bit. He has 2 starting receivers that are rookies. So I think they'll be a little bit rusty out of the gate. I mean, if Thursday Night Football is any indication, we saw Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes struggle a little bit early on. So I can't imagine Derek Carr and Teddy Bridgewater will be lighting it up in the first half. So I love the under 271 passing yards for him. And I like correlating that with the Josh Jacobs over 77.5 rush yards. I think he will crush today. So I love those 2 bets. They're very highly correlated. And the other bet is Matt Stafford under 275.5 passing yards. He's likely without Kenny Golladay today. So that's going to ding his yards per attempt. But also I think the Lions will be a more run-heavy offense today. They have a pretty good trio in Kerryon Johnson, DeAndre Swift, and Adrian Peterson now. So I think they can lean on the run a little bit more. I don't expect Matthew Stafford to be slinging it as much. So I love the under 275.5 passing yards. And another first touchdown score for you guys at 14-1 is Zack Moss. I think they drafted him to be the goal line back. So, at 14-1 odds, I have this closer to 8-1. So I like this one a little bit more than the David Johnson one. I would bet this down to about, 11-1 odds. So I think he's probably my favorite bet of the day.
All right. For those of us who haven't modeled the touchdown odds for every single obscure player in the NFL, can you remind everybody who Zack Moss plays for?
He plays for the Buffalo Bills.
Chad, if people are looking for more of those fringe prop bets from Corner, he's got 17 that he outlines in a story that is currently on the homepage of our site and the app.
Yeah, that story was amazing. And I'm trying to figure out, like, Corner, when you were doing those things, how do you come up with 17?
I just poured through all of the player props, and I have my player prop simulator. So I was, grinding out late last night and found at least 17. I'm going to be adding more throughout the day, but the starting point was 17 this morning.
All right. Speaking of player props, Matthew Friedman, player prop extraordinaire. Sean Corner says he loves Derek Carr, I think under 271 yards. You, on the other hand, I know have a player prop that you love that involves the Raiders, but who do you want to start with right now?
Yeah, let's start with Henry Ruggs, my guy. And I should say I am with Corner in that I have Carr projected for the under here, but Ruggs is in such a smash spot given that Tyrell Williams, the former number one receiver for the Raiders, is out. We know that Ruggs was the number one receiver taken in the draft. We know how fast he is. He was an explosive playmaker in college. There's so much to like about him, namely his matchup, which is just pristine.
Why so?
Okay, well, I mean, let's talk about the guys he's going against. First of all, the Panthers, they were bad last year. Their defense might be worse this year. They're without 3 of the top 4 cornerbacks that they had last year, including number 1 cornerback James Bradbury. These are the guys that they have at cornerback right now. Dante Jackson, who was benched last year. Troy Pride Jr., who's a 4th-round rookie. Rasul Douglas, who is a cast-off from the Eagles secondary. It was one of the league's worst units last year. Corn Elder, who sounds like a character straight from the brain of Stephen King, and Stanley Thomas Oliver III, who sounds like a dude whose name is on the Declaration of Independence. There is no way that these guys are going to stop Henry Ruggs from doing whatever he wants. The prop right now is 40.5. It might move around a little bit. Even if it moves up to 47, whatever. I'm still betting this. I am aggressive in that I have it projected at around 62. I know that's aggressive. I don't care. I think Ruggs explodes in this game.
All right. So now you've brought up a Stephen King reference and tied it to one of my favorite bets of the day, which is the Carolina Panthers +3. And now I have all these reasons why I don't even like that game anymore. When 5 minutes ago, I was like practically ready to double down on that game. But if you talk about Corn Elder, which is like, you're right, that does sound like a Stephen King character. I might have screwed up Evan Abrams, our producer, on this because I went to Henry Ruggs before I went to your other favorite prop. So why don't you break down your other favorite prop for us too? See if it matches with the graphics that Evan was spending all morning building.
Okay. And by the way, Carolina, you should still like it. Let's talk about another guy, Mark Andrews. I am going over on his reception total of 3.5. And by the way, I should just say, normally the sharp side tends to be unders. So I just kind of want to highlight some overs for people who actually like betting on something to happen. But it's a situation where Andrews was fantastic in college, great as a rookie, great in his second year. The team just traded away Hayden Hurst. So now we're going to see even more snaps, more routes, more targets for Mark Andrews. And again, the matchup is great for him.
All right, Darren, anything going on that we need to be thinking about right now? I think you're on mute, buddy.
Sorry about that. It looks like most sports books now have the Eagles up to 6 from 5.5. So that's that. And the Cardinals, again, are at 6.5. So there hasn't really been much movement anywhere. I don't have any big bets. I will say, based on what your conversation was with Raybon about the Raiders and how they're seemingly not as good as they're getting credit for, 83% of the money is on the Raiders at William Hill. Now, realize that that is heavily Las Vegas, or heavily Nevada. They have over 110 sports books in the state, but still, obviously that's the second biggest number of the day as far as percentages.
All right. Well, you know what the axiom is? The old rule: if there is 80% of the money coming in on one side, and that side happens to be a road favorite, you take the other side no matter who it is. It could be like the Little Giants from the movies, and you're still taking that side, because taking a road favorite at 83% basically means the public loves it and you're a square if you're going to stay on that side. So now I'm feeling even better about the Panthers. I've got like an EKG going up and down about the Panthers right now. All right. What does everybody want? Everybody wants picks. It's time for the perfect portfolio. Raybon, you're going to go first. Give me your perfect portfolio.
So I talked about the Panthers +3. We've talked about that probably way too much. Another bet that I love for today is one that I locked in: the Bills at 6.5 against the Jets. Just no contest, in my opinion, between these two teams. The Bills even have the much better quarterback. They're able to slow down tight ends, which is probably going to be one of the Jets' best weapons, and Chris Herndon with all the receivers banged up. And one thing I didn't mention before for a DFS tournament, I love me some DJ Moore in that Panthers-Raiders game.
All right, what else?
Also have the Chicago Bears +3 against the Detroit Lions. I think that, without Kenny Golladay, that does significantly hamper Detroit's offensive attack. They want to be aggressive and throw the ball downfield. As Sean mentioned, they're not going to be able to do that quite as much. And if there's any team that Mitch Trubisky has success against, it's the Detroit Lions. You look at his career numbers; they're actually excellent against Detroit. So this is actually setting up for a good Chicago upset. And I've seen the line on the Seahawks and Falcons kind of flip-flopping around, the pick 'em. And I think the Falcons are favored again. I love the Seahawks in that spot. You don't bet against Russell Wilson, especially to lose a game. So if you can get the Seahawks at a pick or better against the Falcons, I love it as well.
So I love the Bears pick. Obviously, you can see I'm a bit of a homer. But this might be the one spot where I like the Bears. David Montgomery is playing. Like you guys said, Kenny Galladay is out. Like Mitch Trubisky, this stat I know almost by heart, completes 74% of his passes against the Detroit Lions. And if there was ever a weekend where Mitch Trubisky can live up to what Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson have done, it is this weekend against the Detroit Lions, who not only do they not have Kenny Galladay, they don't have Darius Slay anymore. And while they have a great new cornerback in Jeff Okudah, we assume he's going to be great. Their secondary is not nearly as sort of tested as it had been in the past. And if Trubisky was blowing up the Lions when we thought they were good, imagine what he can do with Mitch Trubisky power against the Lions secondary that nobody has really seen play yet. Love the Bears +3. Who am I going to next? I'm going to go to Sean.
Where I come in,
what do you got? What? Speak, go.
This is where I come in with my fading Mitch Trubisky.
Tell it, man.
Fade Ravel this week. I got the Lions. I got the Lions to cover. Points bets giving you the other side, boosting the odds. So if you want to fade Ravel, this is your first chance. And if I lose, you win your money, of course. And I will be pouring, or I guess my assistants, my kids, will be pouring old styles over my head. Each point that the Bears score will be one old style. So we're actually getting them cold in the fridge right now, but I don't expect to have to use them. I'd like to drink them, actually.
If you are in, go ahead, Katie.
Real quick, just on Bears Lions. The Sharps, they like the under in this game. PJ Walsh details all of the angles that they like in our Sharp report on the site, which you can read again in the app and on the site.
Right now, the stories on actionnetwork.com are freaking cranking. Corner, what do you got?
So I got the Bengals +3. I think this is an example where the lack of preseason might help a bet like this. I think Joe Burrow will be NFL ready from the get-go. So the fact that nobody got to see him in preseason kept his hype train a little bit at bay. So I think if there was a preseason, this line would have been bet down to 2 or 1.5 by now. Jets Bills under 39.5. I think after Zack Moss scores the first touchdown, this game's going to come to a grinding halt. And there's supposed to be a little bit of rain, some wind. The Bills are really good at limiting explosive plays, so the Jets won't be able to come back. The Jets have a pretty stout run defense, so the Bills, when they go to a run-heavy offense, won't be able to move it as much. So I love the under. If you could buy it up to 40, I would do that. That's a key number, and it's pushing 40. But if you can buy the half point, I would recommend that. The other bet I like is the Raiders Panthers under 48.5. You have the two lowest yards depth of target pass line of scrimmage QBs in this game. I think they're going to be both relying on the running backs heavily in this matchup. Both defenses stink, of course, but I think this will be a slower pace game. 48.5 is a high number, especially for week 1 when there was a limited offseason. So I love the under on this game as well.
This is what betting is, folks. It's the most exciting window in all of sports. We finally get to talk about it. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the Bears +3, the Bengals +3, under bets for the Bills and the Jets in windy, crappy weather. This is content at its finest. I don't know. I mean, this is what gets ratings, guys. Friedman, give us your perfect portfolio.
Okay, well, hearing what Sean said, I just want to say I actually agree with it. The Bills Jets under, love it. It's 31-19 to the under head coach Sean McDermott in Buffalo. I also agree with Raybon on the Seattle Atlanta game, especially if it's near a pick'em. Not only do you not bet against Russ, you also don't bet on Atlanta head coach Dan Quinn, who has just been atrocious in his 5-year tenure in Atlanta. The props that I really wanted to get to is Greg Ord under 27.5 receiving yards. The return of Jalen Reagor and the ascendance of Boston Scott, who's a pretty good pass catching back. I think that's going to mean that Ward is the number 6 receiving option for the Eagles. So I think tremendous value under 27.5 receiving yards. And then a game that I like, I mean, we've been talking about it the whole show, Panthers +3. The Raiders have been much worse on the road than at home under Gruden. To put some numbers on this, on average, they've lost by 5 points at home over the past 2 years. They've lost by 13 points on the road under Gruden. And then, of course, we have Teddy Bridgewater as an underdog is 17-3 against the spread in his career. So absolutely love the Panthers at +3.
All right,
Chad.
if you watch, Darren, we're coming to you next. If you watch this show and you don't hold your nose and bet the Panthers and they cover, shame on you. Darren, what do you got, man? Let's go to the final go around for breaking news here.
I just got points bet top liabilities by stake, and this is spreads. The Bills are number 1 against the Jets. The Falcons are number 2 against the Seahawks. The Cowboys are number 3 against the Rams. The Eagles are number 4 at Washington, and the Ravens are the 5th liability versus the Browns.
Very nice. Folks, you've got it all. There's 90 minutes to go lock your bets. There's 90 minutes to go finish your lineups. For Matthew Friedman, Katie Rich Creek, Chris Raybon, Sean Corner, Darren Ravel, our producer extraordinaire, Evan Abrams. This has been Action Network Live. Enjoy week 1.